You are now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show. And I always find that there's usually a breakthrough point where you just have a realization.
Yeah.
What was going on for you there that triggered the realization?
I don't know. I think at that time, I mean, that was before the wheels fell off. At that time, everything seemed to be going great. I think I just sat there and I was like, I should be feeling more. I should be feeling more complete. I should be feeling more satisfied, but I'm not. And that's when there was that realization. I was like, I think the big motivator for me is something that wasn't necessarily a healthy one. It was an incredibly effective one, and it enabled me to build a platform. But now the platform's there, it's like, well, okay, now heal that, and then who knows where it will go next, because my motivations will be different. And so it's not like there was some kind of big cataclysmic event at that point. It was like a thunderbolt, I think. It was just like realization.
Yeah.
Like a moment of enlightenment. I was like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
That puts a lot into perspective.
Yeah. And you said that was before the wheels really fell off.
Yes.
So what do you think it was the starting point? Or did something then happen after that?
I just had one thing happen after the other. So I mean, I've never really talked about this a great deal. I mean, I've kind of alluded to it, like when I've done interviews or even like on my own social media, but I've never outright told the story. So over the last few years, I mean, the first thing that happened is my best mate died. Like, he died of cancer. Then just after that, like less than 12 months, my dad died of cancer. He got diagnosed in October and he was dead in November. It was very quick. And I was actually there literally just after he'd gone. And that, I don't know if for anyone that's ever been through that, when they've seen a parent after they've passed, that flicks a switch and you're never going to be the same again. That's just pure and simple. And then there was lockdowns. And I'm one of these people that like needs to, I wouldn't say a control freak, but I need to feel like there's plans and something to work towards. When all of that was taken away, plus with all the grieving, plus with all the madness, it's like everything kind of fell apart. And I turned to drink. Not that it was like a conscious choice. Like, oh, I know what I'll do. This will sort me out. I'll just sit and get twonked in my underpants in the garden all day. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that. I was just trying to numb what I was feeling, because it was a stacking of all these different traumas, and I'd not really had an opportunity to deal with one before the next one came. And it was almost like I had to retreat for a while, for the simple reason that it was just too much to bear. It was just too much to put up with. And it's almost like it became a safe space, because when I was using alcohol like that, it was very effective in taking me away from how I felt, but it obviously compounded lots of other things and made lots of other things worse, and it started to affect other aspects of my life. Clearly it would. I mean, this is like a lot of what Johan Hari talks about, in terms of, like in one of his TED Talks, he said the opposite of sobriety is not, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Or the other example that he used is, like, when people go and have morphine in a hospital, the most powerful, refined heroin you can get. They don't walk out of hospital and then go and try and score down the back alley and come out a junkie. What happens is certain people get to a point where their life is so painful, it's almost too painful to bear, that they just don't want to be engaged in the life that they're in. But they don't want the permanent way out either. So they turn to substances, or some people turn to work, some people turn to sex, some people turn to gambling. They turn to something that can just take them away from a life that's just so painful that it's almost impossible to bear. And that's where I was. It was just, I just couldn't bear it. It was terrible. So I had a period of about 18 months where I was numb. But strangely, I wasn't aware of that being the reason why I was doing it. And obviously doing what I do, I was in a very strange position of guilt as well. I was like, what the hell are you doing to yourself? Do you know what I mean? You're supposed to be this figurehead for like health and wellness. And, you know, you're supposed to have all your shit together. You're supposed to, you know, be this kind of icon. By the way, doesn't matter what you do. None of us have got our shit together. That's just life. But there was that. But then also the things that were going through my mind, it was like, you know, two of the closest people to me had lost their lives. I've been given the gift of another day, and I decided to use that day by pissing it up the wall. I was deeply ashamed of myself as well. So, and it was, I don't know, anyone that's ever been in those addiction cycles will understand that. The shame that comes with it is unbelievable. The strange thing, and this is kind of similar to that realization I had sitting on a plane, things tend to come to me. And when strong realizations come to me, they can change direction for me immediately. They always have done. That's just how I work. I realized all of a sudden that I was just trying to escape and numb out that which was too painful to deal with. And that's why I was doing this thing. And in that second, I was like, right, enough now. Let's deal with this. Let's actually get into this. Let me sit and face this stuff and work through it. And I did work through it. And all that rawness of emotion, it's gone. You know, I mean, it's not to say that I'll never stop missing those people. Of course I will. That's just how it is. But that raw emotion has gone. That's completely gone. And the other side of that, I mean, now, I could take it or leave it. I couldn't give a monkey's. Alcohol doesn't even register in my, you know, day-to-day psyche. It's just a thing. I mean, the other side of that, there's a great deal of beauty. There's a great deal of, I mean, I feel now that I've got a strength that I've never had in my life. I think I said to you before, I used to sometimes get caught up in small things, to sweat the small stuff. And now, like, nothing seems to negatively impact me like that. It's like I can parry so much more. My valuing of life has changed. I mean, I guess some of that comes with age. I mean, I'm 46 now, so you kind of think, well, you know, there's a good chance that there's more years behind me than in front. That's realistic. That can be quite a sobering thought as well. But I think it certainly put me in a place where I can connect to people in a different way. I mean, before that, I would have never been able to have this kind of conversation. I would have been pretending that I had everything together and I was, which is all bollocks. But the value in truly being open and truly being vulnerable as well, I've seen the beauty in that. So there's been a lot of positive changes that came from it. I'm very, very glad that I had that experience. There's some people, I mean, because all of this happened as well when we kind of, like in the EE world as well, when I just joined Mastermind, and then, you know, just had this great opportunity. Then the universe was like, ha, I've got a little trick for you. Yeah, everything's going to go to shit. But there were some people that really could see it and understood and were incredible. And there's others that weren't necessarily that understanding, but that's life and that's their loss. But so that was the wheels coming off. That was the torrid tale.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for feeling comfortable enough to share it here, because I do think this is one of the reasons why Inspired by even exists, because so many people have built success, have built a personal brand, and you're one of them. You know, I can totally relate to the feeling of shame that can come with these, because the bigger the brand and the bigger the highs, the bigger the falls, and the bigger the mask can get. Now, I'm curious, Dale, you've talked so much openly about it, which I'm really grateful for. This was also happening while you were still building that brand, right? So you were still filming for Eat, Shop, Save at the time. So how did you handle that? Wheels are coming off, shit's hitting the fan behind the scenes, but actually, hey, let's get on camera and put a great face on. Literally
that. Like this is the one thing I say. Even though I was in the middle of that, I never turned up for work with even a trace of alcohol in my body.
Wow.
Or with a hangover. I could literally go from one thing to the next. I was what you would call a high functioning drinker. And also when I was working, I had that sense of purpose. I had that thing that was also another way of not being in the pain, and because I could just go into that work persona, and it is going into that work persona. You immediately jump into, I'm not saying a character, but you kind of approach it like that. And I think you speak to a lot of people in TV, they kind of have their TV character. Like as soon as you come back from an ad break, boom, you're straight into someone else. It's so yeah, but I was very, very fortunate that it didn't get enough of a grip on me to ever cross over into my work life or relationships or anything like that. So I was very lucky in that respect. If I hadn't got to grips with things, God knows, who knows.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to suddenly see what the hell was going on and turn the wheel, and those days are gone, which I'm thankful for. If I wasn't able to do that, who knows? But no, I found it very easy actually, because I love what I do. Like sitting here now talking about this stuff, it brings me to life. And the energy that you get from that is better than anything else. But it is another, whether you want to call it a dopamine hit or whether you want to call it a distraction from the things that go through your mind when you're laying in bed wide awake at 3 a.m. It's still taking me away from it. So yeah, the two never crossed over, thankfully.
It's a different type of escape, right?
It is, yeah. Probably a far healthier one.
Yeah, we can do this for as long as we need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.